Hello, my name is Leslie Seabrook. Welcome to my StampinTrix video. Today's video is how to create the Bokeh technique. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. So I pronounce it Bokeh. I believe that it's a photography term, but that's how I'm going to refer to it today, and hopefully I get my pronunciation right. Anyways, how to create a bokeh technique for a background. So I'll move my card supplies here and just tell you a little bit about what inspired me. So this winter I challenged myself to learn the new, and new to me was a new technique. So the bokeh technique. I was inspired by a customer. She gave me a card with this technique and directed me to Lisa Freeman's video where I learned this technique. She did a video just before Christmas and she used pinks and purples and snowflakes. Anyways, I love seeing people take off with their Stampin' Up supplies as soon as they get just loving the card making and using all the supplies, the color coordination. It's just fabulous. So my customers inspire me a great deal, and I think this customer hopefully knows who she is. Anyway, step one is to gather your circles. So primarily I used, I don't have circle punches. So I had to use the dies that I have. So I used the layering circle dies, and I was gifted these dies actually from my team leader, Genevieve, when I did a presentation for her. Anyways, I love how they're all neat and tidy and organized. They take up a little bit less space than punches, and I find them really versatile. So as you'll see here, I have used the dies to cut out circles. So I used two dies primarily, these two. And then for this smaller die, I brought in the palm trees dies. Now I'm going to actually do a video next week, hold me to it, on doing with the palm dies and the Paradise Palms bundle. But I needed this small little circle here, so I stole it from what would be the sun in the palm dies. So I'm going to give you just a couple little measurements here. I think the largest circle here is about 1¼ inch at its widest point in diameter. This might be, 1½ this might be 1¼ and then this little small one is 3/4 inch. Bottom line is you just need to have a few dies or punches of different sized circles. So that's what I chose to use, because as I said, I don't actually have the punches. So I'm just going to set these aside for a minute. So I want to share with you about the mini, I should have pulled that out, the mini stamp cut and emboss machine. There is a special on starting in March. And as I said, I'm going to do a video next week, but I just wanted to bring it in and just show it to you really quickly because it is awesome value for $65. So the big die here can actually fit through the stamp cut and emboss machine. So if you're interested in seeing more about this machine and how easy it is to work with, I love the lightweight little machine, and I'll explain lots of reasons why next week, but I just wanted to show you that even big circles like that can go through the stamp cut and emboss machine. So when I cut out the notes, or when I use the circles, I was actually cutting out sticky paper, sticky note paper. So this is a super sticky paper by Post-it note because it's sticky all over. Like the entire pad has the sticky on the reverse side. So it was easy to just lay it down on top of the stamp cut and emboss machine plate and lay down the dies and just simply cut them out. So that's all I did to create this, and it's just, as I said, sticky notes placed on a piece of cardstock. So here's my little measurement for you for the cardstock. Let me just think. I'll pull out my ruler. Yeah, it's 3¼ by 4.5. So I did it a full inch smaller than the card. So, oh, that one keeps coming up. So just make sure your circles are pressed down. And we're going to start to blend. Now I wanted the focal point of my card, as you saw here, the Dragonfly card. I wanted the focal point to be up at the top. And I wanted there to be sort of a visual indication up to that focal point. So that's why I placed the dots as I did. So you can place them however you want to create whatever kind of background you want. I just happen to want that look, and so that's why I did it that way. So I'm going to use our fabulous blending brushes, just a couple, because I just want the yellow shade is going to come from our crushed curry. The orange shade is from our pumpkin pie ink, and then the red shade is from Merlot. And much to my surprise, and I'm saying that with a smile on my face, I do not have a Merlot ink pad. I thought I did. I have the re-inker, but I do not have the ink pad. And so these little Stampin' Spots come from our paper pumpkin kits. So if you subscribe to be a paper pumpkin kit receiver, you will get one of these Stampin' Spots every month with your kit, a different color depending on the project that they're showcasing. So I got this from a few years back, I think. And then the re-inkers that we have, just like this, as I said, I had a re-inker. You can just re-ink these little Stampin' Spots. So if you don't want to invest the money on some of the colors that you may not use very often, because I know we all have our favorite colors that we gravitate to, certainly having the ink spots is a great way to have the ink color but not invest the same amount of money as in the pads here. Now, having said that, I should share with you before I start the actual technique that totally these colors would not be colors that I would choose. And so I found these colors. It was a challenge that I took part in called Fusion, and they provided a color palette, and these were the colors that were in it. And I thought, well, again, I want to push myself. I want to learn something new, and so I'm going to try these new colors. So I wanted to share with you how Blackberry Bliss, or how Merlot falls on the color spectrum. So this is the color that we're using right here. It's very dark red. It is from the Neutrals pack, and it doesn't pull or have an undertone of pink or orange. So if you look over here to our Real Red and our Poppy Parade, you can see some orange starting to come through here. So these reds are part of a different color family. The Merlot is actually in our Neutrals pack because it is very much just a plain dark red. And I wanted to share with you the Blackberry Bliss right beside it because it's easy to get these two confused when you're looking at a paper pack. This is from our Regals paper pack, as are this cherry cobbler here and a Real Red come from our Regals paper pack. And as I said, this is from our Neutrals. But I think it would work equally as well with Blackberry Bliss. It's just that this was the color that was being shown on the challenge. So that's the one that I picked. And I should share with you these awesome little color palette on a ring. This was a gift to me from one of my team members, and I hope she'll know who she is as well. So I have found them incredibly useful, and I go to them all the time. They're fabulous. Thank you so much. I know who you are. Oh, just dropped something on the floor behind me. Sorry about that. Okay, so next step is to actually just start blending. So I'm just going to sit down here so that I can work, and if I miss some of your comments, I'll pop back up in a minute and I'll take a look and see what you said, but we'll just get started here. So The key that I think, and just make sure I'm in camera, the key I think to working with our blending brushes is to have a very light touch. And if you want a darker color, just add more ink. So it takes it a little bit longer, but it stops you from having blotches of color, if that makes sense. So I just hold it at the end as opposed to holding it up here. I prefer to hold it at the end. Just pick up a little bit of ink on it and then move it off my project onto a scrap piece of paper just to make sure that it's even, that the color's coming through all the bristles really nicely. And then I take it to my project. So as I said, sometimes it takes a little bit longer, but I think in the end you get a nicer effect. What I think is really fabulous about using the darker colors is that you have so much more versatility with the depth of color that you choose. So as you see right now, this is the color of crushed curry. It's very gold. It's almost like our bumblebee, that is one of our in colors. But if you look at it on the piece of paper here, and I don't think it's just because these are bright chartreuse sticky note, I hope you can see how light the yellow is. So that's what I mean about getting real varied depths of color. So I'm placing them in this pattern, again, simply because I'm hoping that I can create a visual line for the eye to gravitate up towards the focal point that I have up here where I know I'm going to put the butterfly. But you know what? If you were doing this on your own, not wanting to use the butterfly, or the dragonfly, I mean, and just wanting to create a technique, an all-over background technique, you can put the color wherever you choose to. I'm just, as I said, trying to draw the eye up towards the focal point. So the other key with this is that sometimes you have to go back and forth and you have to play with your colors a little bit. Oh, sorry. So now I will start on my pumpkin pie. And I think I'm going to use the same brush with the pumpkin pie. Just make sure that I'm getting the real true orange coming through. If any of you have tried our blending brushes, please write me a little note. I'm going to have a little black spot coming here. Please write me a little note in the comments section. I would love to know who has tried them. If you're enjoying them, what techniques or tricks you've found that work really well. Because I really think that using these blending brushes, just practice makes perfect sort of thing. So the colors are similar. They're close to each other, you know, on the color wheel. They're actually in the Regals pack. The pumpkin pie and the crushed curry are right beside each other. So if you look in our annual catalog, under the Regals pack, you'll see the pumpkin pie and the crushed curry there. And then up above is the Neutrals pack, and that's where the Merry Merlot sits. The other thing that I think, I typically don't use yellow. It's just not a color that I gravitate to. As I said, I don't actually even really gravitate towards orange. They feel like autumn colors to me, and I don't know why. It's just I just don't gravitate to them. But I think that this Bokeh technique works really well with the yellow, and you'll see in a few minutes why I say that. No idea why there's a little splotch up there. Maybe Maybe we'll just add a little bit of color. So it's a really relaxing activity. You just are adding layers of colors as you go. And as I said, I just prefer to, I'm just making sure that I'm still in camera well here. I like to hold the end of the brush and just repeat the process a little bit more. Certainly I could hold it right close here and push harder with the brush, but I find as soon as I start to do that, that's when I get blotches of color happening. So I'm going to set this aside for a minute and move on to my little Stampin' Spot with the Merry Merlot. The one little thing about these Stampin' Spots is they just have this little plastic lid. Let me again stand up to make sure that you can see this little plastic lid that just goes on and off just like that. So I keep them in a little plastic bag just to keep the ink wet inside. So there's a good example right there. If you see this is a really dark color and I just plot it on, you can see how it's just a big splotch of color. So if you really take a minute to work it into your bristles, as soon as you move away, you're getting a lighter color. So that's the varying the color intensity that I was talking about. I'm wondering, I might just turn this over just so I don't get any color transfer. Let's see if I'm still in camera here. Okay. So with color of any kind, whether it be this technique or a watercolor technique, less is more. You can always add more, but you can't take color away. So if you start out with a lighter coloring, then you can enhance your color by just layering up your shades. I just tapped it there just simply because it's the little ink spot. And I like to work in 3s, 5s, odd numbers. So the larger circle, I think I only have one of it. But I have the 3 smaller little ones. I have these 3 here that are medium and 3 here. I think it just adds a little bit of visual consistency or something. Part of me really wants to right now put some Merry Merlot up there because I've got a little splotch on my card. But I'm not going to. I'm going to keep it to the 3. Okay, so here is where the magic happens. As soon as you pull away your sticky notes, you have these awesome solid white circles. That's why it's important to use the super sticky notes. Whichever brand you choose, just make sure that your edges are completely pressed down. Not pulling up in any way. And I've tried to reuse them, sometimes successfully, sometimes not, because you really, really want that crisp edge. Okay, let's see. I'm going to pull out the crushed curry again. And so I'll just put this little Stampin' Spot away for a minute so it doesn't dry out. Now, if you remember, I also used pumpkin pie with this blending brush. So you can rinse these out with water, but I'm just going to rub it on here right now. Maybe I'll grab another piece of paper just to make sure that I've got all the orange out of it, because I really don't want that color orange coming through. And you can pull color from off the edge onto your piece of paper. So I don't want this pinky red Mary Merlot color transferring. So I pulled out another scrap of paper here. So here's the really neat trick. And when Lisa Freeman did this video, she said, and here's where the magic happens. And this is exactly it. This is where the magic happens. You just start to see that it just happens really naturally. The color blends onto the white, but not evenly. So it leaves these white highlighted areas on the circle. And I guess that's similar to light dots in the photography world, right? Little splashes and blotches of light. I think that that's what they're actually trying to achieve. Has anybody else ever tried this Bokeh technique? And if so, do you have a particular way you like to do it? Please leave me a comment, because that's how we all learn, hearing from other people. So if you're interested in watching Lisa Freeman's video, I believe she's in the United States. So if you're a United States resident, you can shop from her. As I said, it was before Christmas. I'm going to say maybe November-ish. I think that's it for my yellow. I'm going to come back in with the orange. And she used pink, purples, maybe a bit of blue, and she did snowflakes. It was really awesome. Beautiful. So here's my orange, pumpkin pie orange color. And again, because the colors are close to each other on the color wheel, they're in the same family of colors, getting this really neat blending happening. It's quiet. How's the weather where everybody's living? Here it is cold, sunny. We still have snow on the ground. I'm in southern Ontario, Canada. So a little bit of orange, and then I'm just going to do a titch. It's my fancy word, a titch of Mary Merlot. It's really interesting, eh? How when you pull it right off of the ink pad, you see the blotches. I think we're just impatient sometimes to see the final result. At least I know I am. I'm impatient. So it causes me to move a little bit quicker than I should and not take as much time and layer up the color. And then when I do, I'm like, oh yeah, you see, just needed to take a bit of more time. And certainly you can, here, I'll demonstrate. If you want to hold your finger here and you want to really push into, hi Kaya, drive safe. If you really want to push into the ink pad, you can get major depth of color right away. You also get the swirls, the swirl look from the paper. So Kaya, if you're watching and you're able to talk, can you share anything you know about the bokeh technique from photography? Because I know you love photography. It's a little hobby of yours. So maybe you've learned some little bits of information about bokeh. Please share if you do have any little tidbits that you think would be helpful. And drive safe. So here's the final project. I'm going to just leave it and let it be, because what's really interesting is when you start to layer on all the rest of your pieces. Right now my eye's going to certain areas. I'm thinking, oh, I need a little bit more color here, a little bit more color there. No, just let it be. Just let it be. So next step in the process is to stamp the butterfly. So I'm going to pull in another piece of cardstock here and color onto the cardstock. Just create a little circle of color. So sort of similar to how I did here. And you could certainly use one of those circles, splotches of color if you wanted to. But I'm going to start from scratch on a fresh sheet of paper, just because I want to sort of demonstrate it a little bit to you. See how you don't want that splotch of color, but you do want the different depths of color, and I'll show you why in just a minute. And maybe, a light center. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it at that. So next is to use the Dragonfly Garden stamp set. So I'll hopefully not have will do. I would like to try that effect. I can't see all your words, so sorry. I'll look at it in a minute. Anyways, this is the Dragonfly Garden stamp set. I love it. I've used it a lot. I just love the words in it. I love the wildflowers. I love the flying dragonflies here. So I just think this is a fabulous set, and it comes as a bundle. So you can purchase the stamp set, or you can purchase the punch, or you can purchase the Dragonfly Garden stamp set and punch together. It's called Dragonfly Garden Bundle, I think. So because I have this little Stampin' Spot, I'm just taking the ink to the stamp and just going to hold it down here. I'm probably off camera now, just to make sure that the ink is adhering to the stamp. I always just do a practice stamp. Sometimes the ink pad dries out, so you don't get as much ink coverage. And then I'm just going to stamp it down here at the bottom. Cover that up and then enter the punch. It's a really cool little punch. So our punches work just by sort of depressing, holding down a little bit and moving this sliding bar up. And then you just pop it in. Yeah, it doesn't like the little point on the end. Slide it in, line it up. Hope everybody can see that okay. And punch. So when you take a look at this, you see how the color varies on the dragonfly a little bit. Still not splotchy, but I could have stamped the dragonfly out of any of these practice areas here and got a completely different look. So you can reuse your scrap piece of paper for your actual punch. I think that that's kind of neat. It gives, sometimes you just never know what you're going to end up with. It gives you a really neat little look. Just setting my punch away. So last but not least is our little sentiment. And I stamped this sentiment with our stamp set called Art Gallery. I'll show you that in a minute. And I just stamped a whole line of them at the time. This is just a 1/4 inch, I think it's a 1/4 inch piece. Yeah, 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch. Just a scrap piece of paper that came off of one of my cuts, and I just laid it out and did a whole series of thank yous, and then I just again sponged with a couple of, or blended with a couple of our blending brushes just to get this different color look here. And then I'm just going to cut it to the length that I need. So that's just like a quick little trick. When you have a scrap piece of paper like that, just stamp your sentiment a few times and then cut it up as you need. So I'll show you the Art Gallery stamp set. This is it right here. It's also in the annual catalog, and I love the simplicity of all of the sentiments. And again, they just fit so perfectly onto that 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch piece. So you can have a real small little narrow strip. Just think it's a really versatile little set. And of course the flowers are awesome too. So next step is to pull in the rest of our card and build the card. So I'll do that with you as well. So this is our Merry Merlot. This is a piece of pumpkin pie. It is a smidge bigger. I'll show you what I mean by a smidge. It's like a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. So you can play with that. Oh, sorry, I just banged the table. You can play with your widths of your border based on personal preference, whatever you like. Personally, right now, I'm just really enjoying teeny tiny smidges of color. Looks like my glue's just about run out. I just like a teeny tiny smidge or hint of color. Oh, and then of course the new one is loaded with glue. I store them upside down in these fabulous little holders that my husband made for me. I'll show you one of those in just a minute. Because you don't need much of this glue. I have way too much on this piece. It's because it was a new piece. You don't need much. A little dab will do you. And when you think that you're out of glue, you're not. Leave it upside down for a while and it will drip down. And if you can see it, you've got enough. So I put way too much on there. So I think I'm going to pop this up on dimensionals just because I like that look. But I think I'm going to glue down the dragonfly, but I'll show you a little trick with the dragonfly. So I want it to look fairly lifelike. I don't want it completely flat against the side of, or against the card base. Now, if you're mailing this to somebody, probably it will flatten in the mail, but it encourages the paper fibers to just have a little bit of life. And I want it to just be there. And I'm thinking I can slide in the thank you right about there. I wasn't sure exactly where I wanted to cut my thank you on this side because I knew I wanted to slide it in. So I'm just going to take off another little piece. So if I put it there and I slide this in, I don't really want the edge to be seen, if you know what I mean. So I'll take off another little strip here. So just sort of measure it out and see how everything's going to sit. And then I'll just put this little guy up at the top, hoping that maybe it looks like a dragonfly in the distance, just flying off. This might be a really neat background. You can stamp directly on it with the dragonflies here from the stamp set, this one right here. You could have them stamped either coming up to or going off of your card. I just wanted to try to keep this one as similar to the one that I created the other day as possible. Now this time I think I will use this almost empty glue because I don't want much glue. Just want a teeny tiny little dab. And you see how there's still glue? Oh my gosh. Yeah, still glue coming out of there. And that's turned upside down. Oh my goodness. It's amazing. A little dab will do ya. So I'm just going to take off, smear around what I've got using a little piece of cardstock. I always need to stand when I stamp. So I just put it on the one side, I think you saw, and just up on the body a little bit, just to give it a little place to rest, but still leave the tips of the leaves coming up. So I'm just kind of holding it there for a minute. That's why a little dab will do ya. Yeah, look at all the glue still in there. Sliding this under. And then again on this one, just going to dab a tiny bit right here on the body. Place it down like it's leaving the card. There we go. And then I think I'll just pop it up with dimensionals. Just like the effect of a little extra dimension there. I guess I'm out of my big dimensionals, so I have to use the sides. I think that's dry. Maybe I'll just do this. Just hold it in place. Now I usually cut all these little bits up. I don't know if any of you work with dimensionals, and I can't leave all those little pieces there. So I do cut them up, but I am so particular with my scissors. I will not use these black scissors to do that cutting because I don't want them to get all gummy. So I'm just using the Stampin' Dimensionals that I have handy here that are smaller. But I will go back and I will use the the larger dimensionals, all those little edge pieces. But this is good enough for right now. Lots of people say, and I agree 100%, do not skimp on dimensionals, especially when you're using the teeny tiny ones, because even in the mail, your card will sag in the middle if you don't have dimensionals in the middle, or basically wherever you don't have them. If there's a big space in between, your card will sag. So it's one of those things that I just don't skimp on dimensionals. And that's why I use all the little extra bitty bits. Oh, that one's sticking. So a little trick for me, because sometimes my hands are really shaky, I line up my cardstock with our grid paper. And then I know that this was, like I said, about a ½ inch smaller all the way around. So I know that I can come in two little squares here is a ½ inch, 2 little squares down is a ½ inch. So if I just eyeball it, even though my hands are shaking a little bit, if I drop it down and move it in by 2 little squares on the grid paper, I should basically have it straight. So let's just move it over here. Yeah, good. There you go. Ta-da! Quick and simple, I think. Beautiful effect with really not too much effort to create really neat difference in color and shading. It really definitely looks like it's picking up the light. And I think the brightness of the crushed curry It just really pops. So here is a little sneak peek that I want to show you. Now, as I said, I put this card in for a challenge, and it was the color palette was given to us. But I also put this card in for a second challenge, which was to use circles and dots, and that was with the Global Design Project. So I ended up making 2 cards. Here's the other card that I made. And I literally did the flip a coin, let me see which one I'll put into the challenge. So I ended up going with this one, but I think I'm going to try to do a YouTube short and learn a new technique. In this case, a technique of using YouTube, so challenge myself in a new way. So you can hold me to that. I'm going to learn the new and try to do a YouTube short and show you how I created that one. So if you would like to leave me a comment and tell me which card you prefer, because I posted that on my Facebook group initially and asked people to just tell me which they preferred and if they would like a video on it. And I had a response back that said, could we have a video for both? So that's why I'm going to challenge myself to do a YouTube short for the other one. But if you could leave a comment or share, I will draw a winner, and then I will send you this card in the mail. So it's a make a card, send a card time. And thank you again for watching. Thank you for commenting and for sharing. It really helps me grow my online business, and I truly appreciate your support. I wanted to just tell you that you can shop right up here, and you can visit my blog here. And I did have a little special I wanted to tell you about really quickly. Savings are in bloom. I was sharing the stamp, cut, and emboss machine with you, but this is the flyer that Stampin' Up! Has provided us. Savings are in bloom is a special or sale that's happening from the 1st to the 31st of March, and they have reduced the cost of the stamp, cut, and emboss machine to $65.50. So if you've ever considered purchasing this mighty little machine, now is a really good time to do that because it is a great deal. And then they have a number of bundles of stamp sets and die cuts that work really well with this machine that they're featuring on sale as well. So this all squared away bundle is right here. And I do have a bunch of cards I was going to show you. So this all squared away, here is an example of a card that I made with that one. And I just used some gold embossing on it. So you can change the color of the flowers. This is just cardstock. So each of these little pieces just pop out, and you can just glue them on and create a 2-color square. So that's one. Then the next one is the art gallery bundle. So that's the stamp set that I showed you a few moments ago. Oh, sorry, I wanted to show you this one as well. This is the all squared away. It just gives you another example of how you can change the colors of the flowers. So it's the same square, same flowers in the square, but 2 different colors there. So just adds a little bit of interest, and that is simply done with cardstock. So the art gallery bundle is this one right here. That's the one that I showed you that I took the sentiment from, and the flowers are just awesome within that. And so here is a card made with those flowers, and I really distressed and broke down the fibers of the paper a little bit for this card. Again, it's just stamp on cardstock. So the dies cut the shape of the flower out. The other one, Beauty of Friendship bundle. This one's really cool. I created a slider card with this one. It has matching designer series paper. Oh, this one is a partially made card. So these are die cut pieces, the little birds, and then when you pull it up, it surprises you with some designer series paper in behind, and I just put a little fox in there from our Nature's Beauty stamp set. So that's that one. And then this one I do not have. This celebrates sunflowers, but this is a card that I was given using that stamp set and bundle and die bundle. And this was actually sent to me from Genevieve, my upline team leader. And I don't know if you can really see here, but do you see the delicacy of, let's see if I have a little piece of white, the plain white, the delicacy of those dies. Is that not awesome? Oh, I just love that sunflower. And then she stamped all around the edges with it. The next one is Garden Wishes bundle. I really love that one. And I made a card just with two of the die sets, or two of the dies within that set, just two flowers, again, just made with cardstock. And this was just a note card that we sold last year. So it was a super simple card to make because it was just the die cuts placed on the pattern background. So that's a super simple thing to do. You could certainly create your own background with the Bokeh technique and then just lay your die cuts on it. That would be really cool. The next one is Hydrangea Haven, and I do not have that either. But here is a thank you card that I received from the same customer that put me onto the Bokeh technique when she gave me her card. And this is the Hydrangea Haven paper. And so here's just a fussy cut flower from the paper. It's just gorgeous paper. And I think I have to do a video on how to create this super fun top here. So I'm going to do my homework on that and prepare something for you in the next couple of weeks. The next one is the Pansy Patch bundle. I do not have it, and I actually don't have a sample from anybody else, but it is super duper. I'm making a card today with just the designer series paper, and I'm going to post it on my blog later today so you could at least see the designer series paper. Quiet Meadow bundle. Oh, sorry, I did Garden Wishes and Quiet Meadow separate. I don't have Garden Wishes. So Quiet Meadow was the one that I just showed you with the little butterfly and the flowers. And Seascape bundle, Sweet as a Peach bundle, Welcoming Window bundle, What's Cooking bundle looks super fun. I don't have any of these bundles, so I can't show them to you, but I can show you the Wild Cats. And I love the Wild Cats. So there's one card that I made with Wild Cats, and then this one. So this one, I just die cut the greenery out and then just popped up a square from the designer series paper. So this is just designer series paper. I just think it's just a rockin' paper. And then this one is the tiger. So this is stamped and then die cut out, but you can also die cut directly from the paper. So there is a few samples for you with some of the bundles that are available with this special called Savings Are in Bloom. So as I said, I'm going to post, here's a little pansy patch card, a little by 4x4 or 3x3 card. I'm going to create a card just with the designer's series paper that I have today and post it on my blog, so you can come back and look at that a little bit later. But this sale is on until the 31st of March, and so super great value if you're interested. If you've ever thought about getting the stamp cutting and emboss machine, as I said last week, I'll do a little bit more with it. I'll show you the specifics about it. But I did post, I think, was it yesterday? No, March 1st. March 1st, I posted on my blog video directing you to the stamp cut and emboss machine, I think. Anyways, I will do a double check, and if it's not there, I'll make sure it goes on today's post. So there you have it. Thanks so much for watching. Have a super day. Take care. Bye-bye.